Health issue caused by racism. We're going to start there because I've got 3 memes and a video. 3 memes and a video? Just unbelievable stuff. Headlines that you will not believe. One is on the screen right now. It's unbelievable. And health conditions caused by racism. Oh, yes, I think that. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And I'll show that. That's where we're going to start, honestly. They're trying to pivot away from the China thing. They are trying to pivot away from the China thing, and we're going to talk about that during the Treason series of tabs here. So there's lots to get to. Let's get started. First, we have to talk about Mark, and Mark shared this, and I thought, is this real, or is he just making a meme like Ferryman does? And he says, now will you support the Green New Deal? He's not supporting the Green New Deal. To stop people from disappearing, he says. CNN, why some scientists think extreme heat could be the reason people keep disappearing in Greece. What? Excuse me? The bodies of those who died still need to be examined to establish the precise cause of death, but authorities are warning people not to underestimate the impacts of searing temperatures. Climate change will kill, right? This is a real headline. CNN Climate. Why some scientists think extreme heat could be the reason people keep disappearing in Greece. You get so hot and then you just poof out of existence. Gone, right? Ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's not real news. It's fake news. Here is a real show. This show is called New Amsterdam, and it's terrible. Like, the lead is this pathetic beta guy who's in love with somebody, and the whole premise of the show is like he's in love, and that's the trailer they went with IMDb. Fine. This is the clip that I came across, and the payoff at the end of the minute. Like, you have to watch the setup to understand the payoff at the end, but the end is just so ridiculous. Here we go.
Make yourself comfortable. There's a couch over there.
Hey, is he okay?
Yeah, he's okay. I had Cephas answer some questions from a Harvard test known as Unrest. It is designed to measure someone's level of social resistance.
Social resistance.
When people like us oppose the values and policies of the dominant culture.
That's right.
And what does that have to do
Your son, he feels
people like us?
Threatened on a daily basis. Like everything he's earned can just be taken away. He's disenfranchised. But because his life is seemingly free from all this, because he can't name it, he's internalizing it.
Name what?
Racism. I think your son's tumor was caused by racism.
This is on television. This is an NBC show. It got canceled, thank goodness. But 3 seasons. Racism. Your son has a tumor because of racism. Right? Like, I would do the dun 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 thing again, but I just did it and I don't want to overuse it. So this is absolutely batshit crazy. And that show deserved to be canceled. I'm glad they canceled that show. Your son's tumor is caused by racism. Let's get into Canada. That's just one example of what people are consuming and find plausible, right? And holy smoke, right? They're throwing everything at the wall and trying to make whatever stick. And that didn't stick. Nobody went with that. Nobody was believing the tumor was caused by racism. Still, they aired it. Here is a little video made by, I think probably just a Canadian memer. And while you'll get the picture, it's 2 minutes long, worth every second. Here we go.
Tired of waking up in the morning knowing that your prime minister committed treason? Feeling hopeless, like everyone's in on it. So what's the point? You probably heard that the Conservative Party, also confirmed by the NDP, announced that Parliament was given proof of breach of national security, including the traitors' names and proof of Chinese election interference. We also know the Conservatives do in fact have the evidence of the national security breach with the Communist Party of China, as well as the names of the traitors. Well, now there's finally something you can do about it, with the Ultimate Public Awareness 2000. Many will claim that the Conservatives aren't legally allowed to release the names of the traitors. Well, you'll be happy to know that for the low price of free, you'll see clear proof that MPs do in fact have a constitutional duty and right to use parliamentary privilege. This means they can give us the names of the MPs who committed treason and arrest them, while being fully protected from being sued, fired, arrested, or punished in any way. Amazing! With parliamentary privilege, no MP will have to deal with those pesky gag orders, signed agreements, or even laws or court orders. Want to know the secret sauce in this case law? Glad you asked. On May 13, 2022, the Ontario Superior Court of Justice in Alford v. Canada found that Section 12 of the National Security and Intelligence Committee of the Parliamentaries Act unconstitutional because it violated parliamentary privilege. This confirms that every MP still has the constitutional duty and right to say whatever the public needs to know and arrest traitors. Now that the cat's out of the bag, let's pass on the word to as many as we can to create public outcry and make sure the Conservatives and RCMP have our consent to hold those traitors accountable to us. Will they do their jobs? Find out next time in part 2.
Oh, I don't know if they're going to do their jobs. It is certainly not a foregone conclusion that they're going to do their jobs. It seems like they're going to do everything to weasel out of any accountability for everything they've done, including COVID, the economic lockdowns, all of the stuff, the printing of money, the erroneous use of curb, all of these things that they did that drove these problems. Going to completely ignore it. Completely 100% ignore it. Terry says you can no longer hide what this story has been about all along. Not unwelcome meddling, but active collusion with Beijing to secure Liberal votes in 2019 and 2021. Yes. This is a breakdown of, and it's longer than the scope of today's podcast, but it gives you a little taste. The link should be in the description. And thanks for everybody who reminds me if I forget. Sometimes like I'm working or I have a meeting or something to that effect, and I've got more meetings. It's busy. I'm busy. I like to be busy. But sometimes if the show takes a bit longer than I expect, or processing, or if I have to solve a problem, like sometimes I get locked out of accounts, or crazy things happen and it takes me 10 or 15 minutes longer to fix a problem and then upload the show. And then that 10 or 15 minutes were minutes I was anticipating having, but I didn't have. And so things happen and it's 4 hours later and I've forgotten to, push a button. And maybe I should hire somebody. Anybody want to intern with me? That'd be fun. But regardless, please let me know if I haven't posted the links, because I like to know, and then I'll post them for you. So if they're not posted, just let me know. Just comment, and I'll see it, and I'll be like, oh right, sorry. Because there have been times where I'm walking wherever at the end of the day, thinking checked off all my boxes, got everything done, and I don't realize that it's not done. So let me know. But link should be in the description. Let's see what Terry has to say about Trudeau's illicit affair with China's communists. In the ordinary course of heated political controversies, Canadians can sort out the issues that's launching their politicians at one another's throats. In the foreign interference, it's treason. Foreign interference is treason, okay? Because the foreign interference is actually MPs helping China. Or MPs helping Khalistani terrorists, or MPs helping somebody who's not Canadian, right? Upheaval that has in turn paralyzed, confounded, and outraged Canada's political class in recent days. We're not even allowed to know what the federal party leaders are arguing about exactly. This doesn't make the story easy to tell. It was already hard enough to determine when the story really begins, let alone figure out how it all will end. If we wanted to, we could push the beginning of the story back to 2003, when Beijing's United Front Work Department boasted about electing 6 of its preferred candidates in Toronto. 2003, just as a quick reminder, this is me, not Terry now. 2003 was when the Iraq War was just kind of revving up. People weren't paying attention. People weren't paying attention to China. China was seen as China was opening. The opening of China, people were talking about having the Belt Road, Silk Road initiative. I think it was Belt and Road at that point in time. But the whole idea was expansion and manufacturing in China to make products cheap. They did not have on their radar United Front. There was no Andy Lee telling anybody about how deep the ties were between Liberal MPs and Chinese money. Nothing like that. Nobody was paying attention, but people were talking about it. There were people, and as talked about in here, there were people who worked in newspapers talking about it, and nobody paid attention. So that's interesting. I don't know if that's censorship of the time, because in 2003, people weren't getting their news online. They were getting news in newspaper form, right? And so I don't know. I don't know if it was censorship or just people didn't care, or there wasn't the infrastructure to discuss things the way there is now. I'm not sure, but this goes back to 2003. 3 years later, the UFWD, United Front, China's overseas strong arming, elite capture, and election interference infrastructure, claimed electoral success for 10 of its 44 preferred Toronto area candidates, according to internal training manual uncovered by the Financial Times. We could also begin the story with the way the then Canadian Security Intelligence Director Richard Fadden was thrown under the bus by Liberal and New Democrat MPs back in 2010 when he said several provincial and municipal politicians in Canada had come under Beijing's influence to a worrying degree. The charge against Fadden back then was led by the Liberals' current health minister, Mark Holland, but for the opening of this latest chapter foreshadowed by a series of leaks from intelligence agency whistleblowers going back to November 22, we need only go back as far as June 3rd. That's when an Extra Parliamentary Oversight Committee released a heavily redacted 84-page report that seemed to suggest some MPs had been dallying in conduct bordering on treason. So dallying in conduct bordering on treason is a far cry from what the report says. The report says wittingly or semi-wittingly, which again is reimagining treason. Oh, would you like some money I've left in this paper bag on this McDonald's counter or the McDonald's table for you? I didn't realize it was money. I thought it was a stuffy, right? Like a bribe's a bribe. And whether they wittingly or unwittingly took it, bribe's a bribe. So treason is the word that we should be using, not wittingly, unwittingly, or, dallying in conduct bordering on treason. It's just plain treason. And they damn well know it. And they know the names. And they're not telling us.
As well as free birth.
I didn't push anything there. They're not telling us, and that's not good. So that's very interesting. Here's Jagmeet Singh. And in amongst the fallout of Chinese interference, treason being accused across the board, and other foreign interference, including Indian interference in the Conservative election of their leadership race election. All of that stuff is happening. Jagmeet Singh wants to talk about, is it Galen Weston? No, dental care, pharmacare, child care, anti-scab legislation. Nonsense. Norm says it's not a dental care plan. It's not pharmacare. It's not a child care plan. Anti-scab is forced work. Everything you're touting as a success is a complete failure. The only thing you're successful at is propping up the Liberals and hiding traitors. You're a joke. Yeah, I don't really want to listen to Jagmeet Singh. We'll listen to just a bit of it. It's 43 seconds. I don't know if I'll last the whole thing. Here we go.
New Democrats are getting things done. We were able to bring in a number of things this past session. Anti-scab legislation, giving more power to workers and taking away power from big bosses. We brought in free diabetes medication and devices, as well as free birth control.
The free diabetes medication and devices are for life medications that possibly the government's going to pay for, and that possibly do damage, like paralyzing your stomach in ways that make it hard for you to digest food if you're on Ozempic for too long. They're not paying for diabetes management. They're paying for medications. And it's like a partnership with the big pharma company that provides the medication. So the government pays for it. The pharma company makes money and employs people. And soft made, right? Like they hand out the drug works. The doctors prescribe the drug. The people who are overweight lose weight. The drug seems to work. And then perhaps there's a negative consequence. I've heard of people having paralyzed stomachs from this Ozempic stuff. And providing free contraceptive to the women in your society is probably a bad thing. Like, there could potentially be an argument made for that being a soft version of genocide if you're getting rid of the culture and replacing it with a different culture. And yeah, we've got a whole replacement culture on the way, or here already. And they're very, very pregnant all the time, right? How many free birth control pills do the Muslim New Canadians take? Just for interest's sake. Is it a lot, right? Do their daughters get into birth control? Like maybe they're not on birth control, but their kids are on birth control? Yeah, how many generations down? So yeah, the contraceptives is an attack on our culture and civilization. The diabetes medication is a giveaway to big pharma. And I think it's soft made. Honestly, the more I find out about Ozempic, it's bad. It's bad for you. But you can't tell the people who who they think it's a miracle drug. You can't tell them that because it's fixed their problem. And they haven't actually had to do anything other than take the drug. That's bad. Pierre Poilievre is responding to all of this as well, this treasonous stuff. And he wanted to work through the summer to get through the treasonous stuff. And the Liberals and the NDP and the Bloc did not. And so He says the costly coalition is going on a 3-month vacation, says Pierre Poilievre. Instead of giving Canadians a well-deserved summer break, the Liberal NDP are taking off themselves while forcing higher taxes on working Canadians this summer. Sign if you think they're not worth the cost. Yeah, they're not worth the cost. And I think this meme is kind of juvenile, but like, is that just me? Whatever. Here's Lee, and he says it wouldn't be the Trudeau government if multiple criminal investigations weren't underway. Whether it's the Attorney General, the Ethics Commissioner, or the RCMP, it's been a nonstop litany of investigations, malfeasance, and corruption. Andrew Coyne says multiple criminal investigations into federal contracting underway, RCMP reveals. So this is more Arrive scam stuff, but I lumped it in with the treason stuff because it seems like they're giving money away to China. They're giving through infrastructure bank money. They're giving money away to anybody, NGOs who will take Canada to court for climate, whatever. They're probably funding the orange paint on Taylor Swift's plane and on Stonehenge, right? Like they probably bought the orange paint. That's it. So it's one of those things where I think this ties into the people who are actually pulling the strings of our government, and they're using our tax dollars to facilitate their chaos making worldwide, right? So yeah. And after Elizabeth May read the report and said, everything looks great. I'm not even worried anymore after I read the report. Report. It doesn't even matter, right? The report itself says there are parliamentarians who are wittingly agreeing and working with foreign agents, with all sorts of people who don't want the best for Canada. And Elizabeth May read the unredacted part and she said, nah, it's nothing. It's nothing. It's fine. It's fine. And then Jagmeet Singh read it and he said, it's worse. It's worse than I thought. And now after that, one day later, Elizabeth May says, we need to have a super top secret committee to reduce the threat of foreign interference. So, but they're trying to pivot away from finding out what happened previously. And now they're trying to prevent it in the future, but we haven't done any kind of investigation. We don't know. I mean, Han-Dong's still in play in the government. There are all sorts of concerning things that we're finding out about witting and unwitting, and what does all that mean? And we're not allowed to know for what? For national security reasons? It seems crazy. Gov.exe says, after saying she read a top secret document confirming the House hasn't been compromised, Elizabeth May wants to assemble a top secret committee to reduce the threat of foreign interference. They're shifting the goalposts from there's collusion to let's make sure it never happens again. Traitors. Yeah. Yeah. Here's Elizabeth May. Here we go.
Investment of $5 billion for the Indigenous Loan Support Program. There's lots more to do, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Saanich, Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The parliamentarians who serve on the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians have done an amazing job and deserve the thanks of all Canadians. In the face of foreign interference, we need to put Canada first and commit to working together. My question to the Prime Minister is this: is the Prime Minister open to working over the summer with all members of Parliament with top secret security clearance who are willing, in a confidential setting, to work in the hope of determining a shared course of action to reduce the threat of foreign interference?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the Leader of the Green Party and other party leaders who've taken this issue seriously by getting their security clearances. We feel that the public inquiry is the best place for these discussions to continue, and we're pleased that the Commission has agreed to study this.
This was an attack on Pierre Poilievre. That's all this was. Elizabeth May read the report and now she wants to work over the summer. Pierre Poilievre. That's all this was. Ridiculous. And it's kind of a ham-fisted attack too, right? Like it's not very good. This person, Sid Hant, says Canadian Parliament marks a moment of silence for listed terrorist in India, Hardeep Singh Nijjar. So this is reimagining what happened. Like we don't know anything about anything. Canada accused India of murder, right? And then a year later, it's being used as political hay in the House of Commons. This is part and parcel with the Khalistani kind of conflict. This is importing foreign conflicts. We shouldn't be doing this. Our Parliament should not be spending time on this. Here we go.
Following discussions among representatives of all parties in the House, I understand that there is an agreement to observe a moment of silence in memory of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, assassinated in Surrey, British Columbia.
Okay, so all parties agreed to this. Pierre Poilievre, all parties agreed to this. What? All parties agreed to do this. Yeah, okay, good job. We're gonna vote our way out of this. Pierre Poilievre is gonna fix things. I don't believe it. I'm sorry, I don't believe it. I don't believe it at all. Not even a little tiny bit. All parties agreed to this, and Pierre Poilievre is going to fix the thing, like fix diplomatic relations with Modi. Yeah, right. Sure he is. Michael Chong says, from a proud Navy that was once the world's 4th largest fleet with an aircraft carrier, the HMCS Bonaventure, I'm getting it wrong, to this, a fleet with a 40% operational readiness level. Wow, the order paper question. So if we have treason in the government and a military or a navy that's at 40% operational, isn't that bad? That seems bad to me. Like okay, so let's just give me a second here. What was our operational capacity in the year 2000, right? And then 2003, the United Front says we elected some of our candidates. Fast forward to 2024, our operational capacity is 40%. Would it not be reasonable to think that if you went, and I don't know if we were 100%, but I'm betting that we were higher than 40% in the early 2000s, okay? If you went from, let's say 80%, let's just say benefit of the doubt, we were 20% less capacity, but not crisis levels. 80% sounds pretty okay, right? Like, let's just pretend that it's 80% for argument's sake. From 2003 to 2024, we lose 40% of operational capacity, and we have treasonous MPs in the House of Commons. Are those things related? Would it be successful if Canada had an operation against an enemy or an adversary where over 20 years we reduced their military operational level by 40%? Would that be a successful campaign? Yes. Have we had a successful campaign run against us since 2003 to undermine our ability to govern ourselves in Parliament? And as extra credit, they totally decimated our military to 40% operational, right? And we're just talking about the Navy here, but I'm expanding out to include the whole military, but maybe the rest of the military is way better than the Navy. Maybe I'm wrong. But let's just look at the Navy. If the Navy was 80% and then 40%, could that be an attack? I'm very interested in what the rest of the military looks like, although I know they can't recruit anybody because they're woke and ridiculous and nobody wants to waste their lives fighting for a woke agenda that nobody wants, and that fundamentally pushes falsehoods as reality. Right? Like nobody wants that, I don't think. So weird. Here's Mark Garrettson. He says, see you in the fall, Ottawa. Right? We've got treasonous MPs. We've got no military. We've got problems and higher taxes. And we'll see you in September. So, and he's got a mug that's got Jennifer O'Connell saying, boo-hoo, get over it. Right? So, wow. GM Forbes says the person on the mug is a parliamentary secretary to the Minister of Public Safety. The comment was her reaction to the NSICOP report indicating that there were sitting MP senators colluding with foreign governments. The jackass with the mug is Trudeau's government house leader. So, yep. So they hate us and they want us to die. They want us to hand our country over and die. Rand Paul says if you happen to walk in the Capitol on January 6th, you might get 10 years in prison, but if you're responsible for funding research that led to a pandemic and killed 15 million people, and then you lied about it in Congress, then nothing happens to you. That tracks with what's going on in Canada with regards to all of the things that we're seeing collapse around our institutions, military ability to respond to any problem or crisis, governance at all, our economy, et cetera, et cetera. If you've destroyed any of those things, you're completely in the clear. But if you donated $20 to a trucker, your bank account got frozen because a hacker hacked the database and leaked it, and the Canadian government actioned that hacked, leaked database and punished you, right? Like, so yeah, it tracks. That's what they're doing, right? That's what they're doing. And I mean, Tamara Lich and the rest, we've got a whole crime series today, but they are doing their damnedest. They're doing their best to vilify citizens. Sorry, I've got a cough. I keep pausing it because I have a cough. To vilify citizens and to elevate criminals and allow criminals to get away with things, including traitors in the government. And anybody who stands up against it, those people are now recast as the criminals. And the police and the institutions, the justice, like courts and things like that, are all playing along as if it's true. It's not true. So IRGC, sorry, 26 minutes in, and you'd think the IRGC is big news. They're trying to save their skin. They're trying to save their skin in Toronto. That's what they're doing. TravelGC.ca tweeted this out yesterday at 2:35 p.m. Canadians in Iran, due to recent developments, authorities could take retaliatory measures that could pose a risk to your safety and security. You may be subject to increased surveillance. And so, if you're in Iran, and they have advice, they say, if you're there, keep a low profile, don't share personal information, avoid taking photos, traveling to remote areas, and interacting with locals. Avoid interacting with locals. Right. I remember a time when if you traveled the world and you stayed in hostels and things like that, and you had a Canadian flag on your backpack, people were just like, oh yeah, what's going on? Canadian people are great. And now, things have changed quite a lot. Justin Trudeau tweets yesterday at 5:19 p.m. The IRGC is now listed as a terrorist group in Canada. And so that's took them a long time. About time, says Nikki. We've known this for just under a decade, 10 years. What's your excuse? Naya says they're polling poorly in Toronto, St. Paul ahead of the by-election. Yeah, they're trying to save their skin. Will they save their skin? I hope not. But again, it's the same uniparty, so they'll celebrate a win like it's a win, but I don't know. Here is Mr. Poilievre making exactly the same point, saying, we know you're putting your political career ahead of anything else by taking this action. So that's interesting to note as well. Here we go.
A vote in Parliament in favor of banning the IRGC wasn't enough to convince the Prime Minister to list it as a terrorist organization 6 years ago. The organization killing 55 Canadians in an unprovoked attack on a passenger aircraft wasn't enough to make him do it. Even its role in the October 7th attack and its subsequent role in inciting hatred on our streets was not enough. It took a by-election for the Prime Minister to change his mind. Why is the Prime Minister always putting his political security above national security?
Mr. Speaker, today we've listed the IRGC as a terrorist entity. This sends a strong message that Canada will use all tools at our disposal to hold the Iranian regime to account. There can be no impunity for Iran's disregard of human rights and its support of terrorism. This is yet another of the extremely strong measures we've taken against the Iranian regime, some of the strongest measures in the world.
Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Very interesting what's going on, but I think Poilievre is right mainly, and that he's doing this because he's polling poorly in the by-election. Holly Doan says feds blacklist Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist group. Cabinet did not accept committee proposal to immediately expel the estimated 700 Iranian agents operating in Canada. So yeah, that sounds like a bad recipe. Like that sounds like a recipe for disaster. Pierre Poilievre says Trudeau failed for years to protect Canadians from thugs in Tehran. The IRGC murdered 55 Canadian citizens whose families are still waiting for justice. 700 agents are operating in Canada. Join common sense conservatives in our fight to protect Canadians and fight for a free Iran. Hold on. Wait, what? It's not my fight. That's if Iran wants to be free, then Iran should free themselves. This is not like, it's not our job to go free Iran. What are you talking about? I don't need to. Canada doesn't need to get involved in a regime change war in Iran. It's their country. And that's been the problem for a lot of years. We're sending money to Ukraine. We're sending money to Israel and Gaza. We're sending money to all sorts of other places. And they've got to self-determine. They can't say like, well, hold on a second. How does this impact the Canadian money that's coming in? Like, this is nuts. This is absolutely crazy. Why do we have to fight for a free Iran? How about we fight for a free Canada? Like, Harrison Falk. Hello everyone, thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful